Perfect. Hi, Charlotte. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to chat with you today about Falcon Lake, a movie that just like wrecked me, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I know that this is based on a graphic novel called A Sister, Un
Mhm.
Soir. Sorry, my French is terrible. So I'd love to hear from you about kind of like how you got that graphic novel and then how you set about to kind of like take parts of it. Because I know it's a loose adaptation, right? It's not like
Yeah, it's very loose. Yes.
yeah.
Um, I mean, it just it kind of happened. I mean, I was editing my first, not my first. I mean, my only short movie that I did, and a director I've worked with as an actress came by, who was also a friend, and he came by in the edit room and he saw what I was doing, and he said, I'm starting my own production company, and I think you should try to do a feature. And after the experience of my short, it was just like an evidence that I wanted to like go bigger and do a feature, but I just didn't know what story I wanted to tell. And he gave me that graphic novel, and I read it, and I really liked, well, in the beginning I was kind of, I just thought it was a very sweet story. It was told in a very organic ways, through the dialogues and stuff like that. It felt really raw and real.
Yeah.
And then, but I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to tell that story, because it was a very basic coming of age movie, story, and I'm not a like a huge fan of coming of age. Like, I just don't like them that much. And I think probably the
Oh.
only coming of age movie that I really like was with Call Me by Your Name. But other than that, I mean, I don't know if I'm a fan of that genre, but whatever. And then the end of the graphic novel, that is not the exact same end in the movie,
Okay.
but that is still, it's a dark kind of end, just gave like this feel on the entire story that I thought was just this weird innocent story, gave so much density to it, that for me was really like the starting point of my desire to make it and to adapt it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, it's funny you say you don't like of age stories because this is a coming of age story, but it's so dark. Like, I feel like so many coming of age stories are very like not all happy, but there's like a little bit of like happiness to them. But yours has a sense of dread in it the whole time. And I wanted to hear more about like, did you always want to have this sense of dread in this movie and how you worked on establishing that and working with your cinematographer to make this like not it's like not quite full horror, but something about it is just like so freaky. I don't even know. It's just like the vibe you create in this movie.
um I think it was a desire from the beginning, because
Cool.
I really started from a script that was more loyal to the graphic novel, and then at some
Okay.
point, but in the graphic novels, there's no strangeness, there's no ghost legend, there's no, all this
Okay.
melancholic vibe doesn't exist in the graphic novel, and it's really from the moment where I closed the graphic novel, put it in my library, that was like, okay, now I'm just gonna focus on what I really like. And I'm a fan.
Cool.
I've been a fan of genre movies forever and horror movies. But I was like, I don't want to make this like a gory horror movie. This is not the subject of it. This is not the heart.
Yeah.
But so I just started to think about my own experiences as a teenager, and the way that I was just shit scared all the time. I was
Yes.
I
Look,
was just shit scared, man. Like,
it's
I
true
was,
though. No one talks about how fucking scary it is to be a teenager and how fucking scared of everything you are.
it's just,
Like,
it's
it's
the
true.
worst. I would like, if somebody would be like, here's like $2 million, you can go back to teenager, that would be like, no, thank you. Like, there's no way I'm doing this again.
Yes.
Because I mean, it was so, I was scared of not fitting in, because I don't think I was fitting in.
Yeah.
Um, I don't even know if that like, does it exist, really fit in when you're a teenager? I don't
I
know.
don't know if it does. I feel like
You
everyone
act
like
like you're
thinks,
fitting in.
yeah, but I feel like everyone has their own like I'm not fitting into my own group even if I look cool. Like
Yeah,
I don't think fitting in is real. I think it might be just like we all made it
an
up, but it
act.
doesn't
I think
actually. Yeah,
fitting in is an act.
exactly.
Yeah, and for some reason, I was a very bad actress at it, because like I just couldn't fit, and it was making me feel really lonely. And I wasn't into party at all, and I wasn't into that kind
Yeah.
of stuff because I felt like people were getting stupid. And but at
Yeah.
the same time, there was a part of me that really wanted to shine and felt that I wasn't cool enough, but I still wanted to be cool and be celebrated by all those people that I didn't really respected with weirdly.
Yeah. Yes.
And
I had a
I
very
still
similar
have
high
that
school
in me.
experience. I saw the very similar high school experience. Like, I don't
Oh.
want to be cool, but like, I really want everyone to like me kind of situation. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
Which is such a fucked up state of mind. Like, how
especially
can
when you
you
have
find yourself into
hormones
that?
and like you're trying to figure out how to just be a person in general too. And
Yeah.
like you really capture that in this movie of just like, and with both characters of like trying to figure out how to be cool, but also you don't want to be cool, but you feel like you have to be cool.
Yeah, and also to be able to find that person where you can just be yourself and it's okay, which I thought was uh one of the very, very important pieces of the movie. But yeah, I think just using like flirting with genre codes in the movie and the gothic
Yeah.
vibe of it, I think was something also like a tool to help me reflect what was happening inside my both of my characters.
Yeah.
Because like we said, being a teenager is fucking scary. Falling in love for the first time is fucking scary. Um, and um, and I just thought it was just perfect elements to reflect that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, and I also am interested in hearing about how you were approaching like filming like teenage desire, because I feel like there's a lot of really beautiful shots of Chloe's like hair and her back, and we're seeing through Bastian's eyes, and you're the way you're framing desire is you're not shying away from it, but you're also giving like you're not making it as a full on, I feel like he's really like into her lusting, but like is looking at her with a different lens. And I'm just curious how you kind of approached wanting to show teenage desire without neutering it to make it feel like kids don't have some awareness of their sexuality, because we know that kids have awareness of sexuality.
Yeah. Um, I think I just remembered that I mean it's probably still the case right now, but before I got into my sexual life, I remember being attracted with small little details
Okay.
in in boys. Like it wasn't like, oh, are they muscular, are they it's like it was like their necks, or their nose,
Yeah.
or like their hairline, like there was,
Yeah.
or their eyebrows. There was just like it was little details like that on paper it's not sexual, it's just like very
Yeah.
aesthetic, weird feel that I don't know, I felt could also be the case if a 13-year-old boy was looking at a 16-year-old girl. And
Yeah.
obviously she's pretty, obviously she's got curves and stuff like that, but I mean I didn't want to like put all of our attention on it because it's obvious.
Yeah.
Like it's obvious she's pretty, of course he's attracted to her, but it's all those little details that I wanted to portray that I thought was more interesting and more sensible. And
Yeah.
and also to just be able to show another face of what we consider like virility, to that
Yeah. Okay.
the way men look at women and stuff like that. I felt it was important for me to just show that Bastien, because I mean there was a lot of people who asked me, was it difficult for you to write the part, because everything is from Bastien's point of view.
Yeah.
And people were asking me, like, was it difficult to write from a 13-year-old boy's point of view? I was like, no, it's exactly the same thing. It really is. Like I was friends with boys when I was younger, and I remember hearing them talking about their girlfriends, and it was the same way my girlfriends were talking about their boyfriends. It was exactly the
Yeah.
same thing. And maybe boys, when they talk to each other between boys, they're not saying the same thing. I don't know, but it really felt like we were completely the same. And so during writing,
Yeah.
like at no moments at all, I was like, oh, I should maybe talk to a 13-year-old boy to see how it really is. Like, I know how it is. I'm sure we're the same.
Amazing. Well, then what was it like working with these two young actors? Because they are incredible. Sarah Monpetit and Joseph Engel are just like electric on the screen, and like they work so well together, and they're almost the entire movie. So what was it like working with them and directing them and getting to watch them create this incredible on-screen relationship?
I mean, what was really interesting is that they didn't get along very well, but in appearance, like when we were not shooting, they were kind of like ignoring each other a little bit. But I just felt that deep down, they wanted to connect so bad that when we were filming, it was the only way they could do it. And I feel like we were really lucky to be able to catch that magic because they really wanted to connect, and they so I think that that created something that I could not even dream of,
Wow.
because they didn't meet before they met like 3 days before shooting
Okay.
because
Okay.
of the pandemic, and Sarah was in
Yeah.
Canada, Joseph was in Paris, and like they did Zooms and stuff like that, but you
Yeah.
can't, and they were still like super shy in Zooms, and but you could really feel like both of them wanted to be liked by the others so bad, and both of them were scared of boring the other person so bad that they just were kind of acting weirdly around each other.
Oh, wait, that's exactly like your conceit of like being a teenager and wanting to be cool and accepted. Oh,
Wanted to fit in. Yeah.
wow. How old were they? Are they? Or are they
He
close to the
was
ages?
14 and she was 19.
Okay. Oh, well,
Yeah.
they're really good on camera. Did they ever
Yeah, they
like get
are.
closer? Like, did that ever kind of dissipate at all, or was it just kind of?
Actually, they had to talk at Cannes like a year later when we screened the movie. Like they made peace
Wow.
there. It was really cool.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
so beautiful. Wow.
But I mean, it's really nice to work with young actors. I was kind of scared in the beginning because I was like, oh, how is it going to be working with, I mean, almost non-professional actors because they're so,
Yeah.
raw and pure. But uh, but it was really important for me to talk to them in the before we started shooting, talk to them, share a lot, share of my own experiences as a teenager,
Yeah.
share of my own humiliations. Also, I
Yeah.
really want them to feel as safe as possible. I didn't want any taboo on set. I wanted to talk about all the sexual and sensible scenes before,
Yeah.
just check with them if they're okay, if there's anything they want to change, if they don't feel okay the day we shoot, just to tell me. And it's, I mean, it's really important when you're an actor, you feel you're seeking director's approval all the time. It's a very, very
Yeah.
vulnerable state to be in.
Yeah.
And when you feel like just a little bit judged, it's
Yeah.
just so painful. So I really want them to never feel judged, and in every proposition that they would give me and stuff like that. It doesn't mean like every time I was like, oh, you're amazing, you're a genius, like
Yeah.
keep doing. I was just very precise with what I wanted, but I was so confident with their nature because their nature itself were fitting the characters so greatly that I knew that they were fine that way.
That's amazing. I also so there is like a little through line that involves biting your hand, and it is. Are you an anime fan? Because there is Attack on Titan is an anime that has this, and like you have an anime kind of showing this in the movie, and it kind of goes throughout. And I love that little detail, and I wanted to hear more about like if you wrote that in there because you are an anime fan.
So, to be 100% honest with you,
Hell
I'm
yeah,
not a specific genre fan of animes. I like
cool.
them, but I'm not just like, I don't like consume
Yeah,
them all the time. The biting thing for me was probably like a little love declaration to vampires that I really like
hell yeah.
vampires. And then when I did a reading with Joseph, he was like, "Oh, that's like the same thing as Attack
Attack
on."
on Titan. Yeah.
Wow, that's freaking genius. So I watched like little extra, how do you say that?
Oh, like
Little,
clips and stuff.
like, yeah, little clips of
Yeah.
Attack on Titans. And initially we put it in the movie. And when we screened it at Cannes, it was Attack on Titans. And then after the movie was screened and we were getting ready for the release, my producer called me and he was like, oh, by the way, we don't have the rights. So I had to recreate with an animator another clip that we made from scratch from the beginning.
I
But
was
yeah,
wondering about that. Wow. Okay, so that was like, oh wow, that's
yeah, that was very,
it's
very
pulling that out very quickly.
but I really like the idea like that. I wrote this thing that was for me just like a little something, a little about vampires and and desire and the attraction to
Yeah.
desire and it's like eros thanatos, you're attracted to something that could kill you and stuff like that. I mean, all
Yeah.
of the movies about this, so vampires really fitted in. So that was it for me. But then when he talked to me about Attack on Titans and that in order to become this super powerful monster, you have to bite yourself until you bleed. I thought it was such a stronger symbolic, tool that really looped perfectly at the end when he's able to bite himself until he bleeds with Oliver.
That is,
Um,
yeah.
but that was because of Joseph. They become little muse.
That's so cool. I was just like a cool little like sprinkle in there that I loved that. And then I'd also love to hear about how you found your setting, your cabin. And you grew up in that area or you spent summers in that area, correct?
Yeah, I grew up in that area.
So like how did you find that cabin and like it's so idyllic and like but also a little bit creepy just in the way I think you framed it. Like it just feels so beautiful but like a little dangerous. And I just want to hear how
Yes.
you found it.
Um, I mean, I was looking for that exact quality that you just described,
Okay.
and in the beginning, I mean, my producer were like, this is gonna be like a walk in the park to find like a perfect cabin on the lake. I mean, we're filled with lakes here in Quebec. Like we have
Yeah.
thousands of lakes, and even like in the area that we wanted to shoot, we probably have thousands of like I don't know, like multiple hundreds of lakes.
Yeah.
And and then we started to visit, and it was either too modern, too big, too creepy, and we visited, I think, at least like hundreds of houses. Like it was really, really long. And at some point, I just started to be like, I was like, we're never gonna find, like, this is why is this so difficult? And we started to just distribute flyers in little like
Oh.
shops and stuff like that in the area where we wanted to shoot. And a woman called the company, and she said, I have this house. I've been living in it for more than 20 years with my boys and my husband that just passed away. It's not in good shape, but I think it could be a good set for your movie. So we came and visited it, and it was filled with life. You could feel that there was so many things that happened in that house. And she did school at home with her boys inside the house, and the house was filled with stuff. Like I think her ex-husband was kind of a hoarder, like he would keep everything.
Oh.
And but it was interesting because the house was really falling apart, and in order to shoot there we needed to do some work around the house. And what is good is that she was able to, I mean, we obviously paid her to rent her cottage, but we also like created like the veranda in front of the house where they're
Yeah.
having dinner. This didn't exist. We built it. The bathroom didn't exist as well. All the bathroom is set that was completely attached to the house that we created.
Oh wow.
So she was able to keep all of those things afterwards to
Oh,
create a new
cool.
house. And
So you basically gave her some new parts of her house.
yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
Wow.
and but I'm so happy. I was kind of scared actually when we visited it because it's a very small house. Like rooms are really small, and usually when you shoot, DPs are always saying that it's too small and that they need
Yeah.
bigger space and blah blah blah. But my DP was really cool and was like, no, I think the vibe is perfect, and I think we should shoot here. And my set designer was completely in love with it. So yeah.
I want to also hear more about your DP and how you found your DP because the two of you made some beautiful art with like, especially with playing with shadow and light. Like there's a shot where at night the two of them are talking, you can't see them, and they walk out of the shadow into the light, and I love, like, it's just so pretty but creepy, and I just love that language you create with this movie with your DP, and I just want to hear more about how you collaborated to create the aesthetic and just like playing with light in this movie and shadow.
Um, we just, I mean, it was his first movie as
Oh,
a
really?
yeah. I mean, he did a lot of video clips, shorts, and
Yeah.
publicity and stuff like that. But it was his first feature.
Wow.
Um, and in the beginning, I was supposed to work with another DP, and he couldn't do it. And I was always like a fan of Christophe's work. And I remember seeing a video clip that he did called Two Paper Moons, and I saw it, and I just could tell that he understood what I wanted, and I could tell that he was coming from the same place as me. I don't know how to explain it otherwise.
Yeah.
And then I discovered that he was born in the same area where I spent my teenagehood. And
Oh,
then for me it was just like an evidence that we needed to work together, because I knew that we had the same sensibility towards images, and I knew that he would understand completely the landscapes that I wanted to shoot in. Um, and that he understood light perfectly, and all the qualities that we wanted to shoot and exploit in these kind of landscapes. And also what really pushed us to be creative is the fact that we didn't have a lot of money and we didn't have a lot of shooting days.
yeah.
So we needed to be creative. We needed to think always less. We needed to and also I think it was probably nice for the actors as well, and even for a director, because you need to be more precise when you don't do so many shots on a scene. Like it's
Yeah.
I've been in movies where I just feel like the director has no vision, and he puts the camera in so many different places that
Yeah.
then the edit, of course you get something, because you just go from one place to other. But for me it was really interesting. It was really important to be as precise and concise as possible. And even though sometimes I was arriving on set and what I planned didn't work, and I had to find other solutions, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just adapt all the time and trying to
Oh, yeah.
be creative. And I hope um I'm obviously hoping to make more movies, but I think not having too much money is a good thing.
It's helped. I mean, like, I know people say that, but like indie filmmaking, you really can do some incredible stuff on small budgets, even though
Yeah.
it's nice for everyone to get bigger budgets. Like, it is really incredible, especially watching your film and so many other indie horror films that just are much more like affecting and than any other like millions of dollar budget movie.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the more money you get, probably the more lazy you get as well.
Yeah. And then
So
my final question for you. You said you are a genre fan. What is the scariest movie you ever seen?
what's the scariest movie I've ever seen?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, other than obviously Shining and Rosemary's Baby and stuff like that, I think the one that really stayed with me for a long time. No, actually, one of the best ones I've seen recently was a movie called The Innocents. Not the innocence,
Yes.
but the
Yeah,
innocent
yeah. The little
girl.
kids in the apartment building. That
Yes,
movie wrecked me. It's so fucked up, but it's so
it's
good.
it's so good. And I don't understand how we didn't like talk about it that much, because for me it's I mean it's really close to a masterpiece. It's so good. And I
So
remember I
good.
watched it with Sarah, my actress, here, and we
Oh,
both of us,
wow.
we were just like so tense watching it.
It's so
Um,
you're tense from like the moment it starts, and you're like, these are children, and it's incredible what he does with children, like what he was able to accomplish, like with young kids, and showing
yeah,
that, like, it's so cool.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, and you
so
don't
effective.
see the strings, you don't see anything, like you're just completely pulled by the story. I
Yeah.
recently saw Beau is Afraid.
Oh,
Uh,
yes. Yeah, the new Ari Aster movie. I knew that that's a divisive movie. I liked it for what it was, but I know it's divisive, but it's a
I mean,
lot.
I thought it was like the first 2 hours, I was completely amazed. Like it's just like it's unlike anything you have ever seen. Like
Yeah,
nothing looks like that. Uh,
exactly.
and because it is a like a 2 hours nightmare, I mean it is a nightmare. You can't never predict what's going to happen, so your brain is just like in constant like state of shock, and like it's really really interesting. But then towards the end I was like, oh, you need to go see a therapist. This is
Yep.
too long, Harry. You got major mommy issues.
On that incredible note, Charlotte, thank you so much for chatting with me today about Falcon Lake. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.